welcome to the Open Mic Comedy Podcast. I'm your host, Mark. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. This podcast is here for everybody on the open mic comedy circuit, whether you're a comedian, an MC, a promoter, or a tutor. Even comedy fans who really do enjoy watching the stars of the future in pub basements around London and around the world. If you're thinking, I could do that, then this podcast will guide you on what to expect on this crazy circuit from those right in the middle of it. Today's guest is someone whose comedy career started being dressed as a bear. Shouldn't be tested on her knowledge of rugby players. She loves jumping, escaping the kids' bedtime, and is very, very excitable. She is 2024's winner of Not So New Comedian of the Year. Please welcome to the stage, it's Siobhan Dodd. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, that was great. That was really exciting. I love the, Monday morning to have a canned applause. It's the best. That's the best. The best breakfast you could hope for. Lovely. Yeah, I'm great. I'm really excited to be here, Mark. I love this podcast. I love that it exists.
No problem.
Like when I saw it, I actually approached you for it because I was popped up on Instagram. I was like, what? There's a podcast for open mic comedy because the open mic circuit is such a brilliant, varied, amazing place and it should be celebrated. So this is great.
When I started in this, I'm not much of a reader on books and stuff like that. I prefer listening to audio content whilst I'm working. And I always thought, well, there's got to be something out there that's going to help me know what I need to do and stuff. And plus, there was, other than YouTube videos of professionals who are so far down the line, their experience is not the modern experience.
Yes, it's not our immediate experience. Well, it is.
No.
Listening to the pros is great, and podcasts like Jokes with Marc and Comedian. I do find that helpful. It gives you a little bit of sort of useful insight, and it can help you with the joke craft and just with sort of general inspiration and mentality. But to have something actually for the open mic circuit is great. So when I was listening to some of the other episodes and hear you talking about G&B and these other nights, it's yes, it's all stuff you can relate to.
Yeah.
It's just, this is the world in which we are inhabiting, and it's still important. The open mic circuit's an amazing place, and it's and you're on the circuit for a long time. I don't know if you ever truly get off it. I don't know if I've ever wanted to get off it. I love the open mic circuit.
Yeah, it's. I think everybody when they come into comedy they have the aspirations, and their immediate thought is in a year's time I'm going to be getting paid to do gigs and stuff like that. There has to be a realistic expectation. That's not what's going to be happening. No. Unless you are outstanding, exceptional, and you're working every hour God sends. Yeah,
and doing that, doing the 5-night a week thing. I've never done that, but this week I've just come off a really big week. I've done 4 this week, which is a lot for me. I could not do that every week. I could not. I mean, my house is a mess. My husband's right, so okay. I was had 4 gigs. Sorry.
Yeah.
That laundry's got to do itself. I'm not doing it.
So what is your background then in stand-up? I've touched on, you came on dressed as a bear.
Yes, that was my first ever gig. So I am a sign language interpreter by trade. That's what I've been doing since I was 27. Since I was 17. I started learning sign language when I was 17. And that was kind of my sort of first goal, was to become fluent in that. And it took me 10 years. I became an interpreter at 27. And what I've been doing to look after the sort of performer in me alongside that was I was in a band with my dad. And I used to run open mic nights with him and my brother-in-law on guitar and my twin on piano. It was lovely. We were like the Waltons, but musical Waltons in pubs. And I used to compare that open mic night, which was called the Busk Factor. And I used to give out party bags. And it was just the early start of the mental that you might see if you come to one of my shows now, or if you came to one of my shows in 2012. Around that time. So that was kind of the seed of, I was enjoying sort of doing the bantery bits in between songs, which actually I first started singing with my dad in pubs when I was 16, and I was useless. I used to just stand there being this is now Ironic by Alanis Morissette. I didn't know what to do. So I quickly learned that you have to learn how to talk. And then after that, so I was doing the band, did the sign language, and then I became a qualified interpreter at 27. And it was in January of that year, 2012. I was watching, when you've got the telly on.
Yeah.
And comes on, and this documentary came on, The Art of Stand-Up by Alan Yentob, and he was interviewing all these different comedians. And I was hanging up laundry at the time and watching it and going, oh. And I'd had some other friends who'd been doing stand-up, and I'd said, oh, that looks like fun. And they're like, yeah, Siobhan, you should give it a go. So after watching that documentary, January 2012, I just like messaged my mate Stu Privet. He's not on the circuit anymore, but he used to run gigs, and said, can I have a slot at your night on, I think it was 23rd of January. Can I have a slot on your night? I think I fancy doing stand-up. I'm going to do it dressed as a bear. And my New Year's resolution was to do stand-up dressed as a bear. I thought that would just be that. I'd tick that off and it'd be like, well, that was fun.
Yeah.
But that was not that, Mark, was it? It never happens like that, does it?
No, it doesn't, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, it doesn't happen
and
just
unfortunately, because it's a curse.
Yeah.
I just think you could just do your job and go home and watch telly and go to bed. Like, that would be so simple, wouldn't it?
Yeah, especially if your first gig goes really well.
Yeah.
Then it just makes you want to continue, and you keep trying to find that hit again that you got from having people laughing at what you've created.
Absolutely. And then inevitably you get the bad bits as well.
Yeah. So did the first gig go really well?
Yes, it did. Yeah, it did. It was great. I had a guy come up to me and be like, hey, here's my card. It was a bicycle repair shop card, but it had his number on. I think he ran a night. I never did the night. I never got in touch with the guy. I should have done. And that gig went well. That did get that. Yeah, it did. I was a bear, and I had another little bear that I called Paul, and he was my colleague. I remember going down to the basement to get changed, and these other two comics, like two boy comics, were there, and they did actually knock Paul out of my hands, and I said, hey, that's my colleague, and they went, he's not your colleague. And I remember thinking they were a bit mean, but I never saw them again. So they've gone, and I'm still here, so fuck them. But sorry, I go off on mad tangents, Mark. But one of the reasons I wanted to do stand-up is because I identified as an interpreter, you don't necessarily have your own voice all the time because you're interpreting for other people. And I'd heard someone on the interpreter course saying it's good to have other things going on, because sometimes if you're just focusing everything on interpreting, that can drive you a bit mad. Because you then don't have your own voice. So I thought, a healthy thing for me would be to interpret in the day and have my own voice in the night, where I could go out and be like, rah, fuck, yeah, look, I've got my own voice, yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's actually quite nice to go back to interpreting and not using your own voice. Not that you don't use your own voice, but, to that extent, you don't have this, it's not as kind of, you're not as loud and out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've then gone on from 2012, and then you've just kind of how's the progress been going?
Well, it was an interesting one. So 2012, I wasn't doing that many in 2012, and then October 2012, my dad died suddenly, and it was like, it was a fucking just awful. Like, it was nothing ever bad had happened in my life before. So I took a bit of time off, then came back in January 2013. And of course, I was a bit fucked emotionally. So I was doing more gigs then. So I kind of turned to comedy and alcohol, which is really healthy. It's a really good thing to do when you've gone through a trauma. But it did kind of help. And I was doing lots then. So I think 2013, 2014 was probably when I was doing the most. And I got my own variety show at Dirty Dick's. We Are Funny. Alfie Oates, he decided to give me a variety show to do, and it was mental. Like, we had a biblical one, a 90s one, and my ideas would just go mad, and his ideas would go mad. But I don't know if have you met Alfie?
I've never actually met him, no. I've done We Are Funny a couple of times, but he's never been there.
Yes, he's probably a bit step back now. But yeah, he's mad. So we would like meet and talk about shows, and it would both just be like, yeah, this. And normally you need one sort of calming force, but with me and him, there was none of that. It was all just bonkers. And we did these shows that were really fun, and I put a lot into those. And then 2015, I got married and kind of started taking it a little more easy. I wasn't pushing it quite as hard, but I was still gigging quite regularly up until November 2017, when I was massively pregnant. And that was when I had my first baby. And the last gig I did before having my first baby was a Me Too night at G&B, the Arch one.
Okay. And
I dressed up as a builder. My belly was a beer belly. And I had like a vest that didn't cover it, and I was micro-misogynist. And it was brilliant. It was just a magical gig. And because the mic stand's quite heavy at Arch One, every time I needed to move it, I would just look at a male audience member and go and touch my belly, and then they would move it for me. So it was really good fun. But then second baby was pandemic, so I couldn't do any gigs, so couldn't play around in the same way as I had with the first pregnancy. So progress. So then obviously I had the first baby. Didn't really get back into it massively after my son. 2019 I came back on and I was maybe doing a couple of months, but I was keeping my foot in the water, but I wasn't properly immersed back in. I don't know whether that was part of me knew I was going to have another baby, so there was no point really throwing myself back into it when I was going to have to step back out again. And then, of course, pandemic happened. It happened to tie in with another baby. Got properly back on it. My first gig back was Mother's Day 2022. I did the Not So New Comedian of the Year competition, and I got through on the first heat. And that was my first gig back after like a year and a half off, like properly off, apart from maybe like 2 Zoom gigs with Kyle. And I won that heat, and I was like, oh great. Like, I didn't win that heat. I got through along with Mike Cox, who then did go on to win that competition that year. He's amazing. And I didn't get past the semi-final, but I was happy with that. And it was enough to get me back on. Then I met a venue. I fell in with a venue. Do you know Arthur's Cafe?
No, I don't.
Park. It's amazing. So, do you know Marvin McCarthy? He runs Instant Laugh.
No, I have not come across that.
Totally mad. You've got to get him on the podcast. He runs all sorts of nights. You need to see I deal with a lot of mad people. And I'm a mad person. And I emceed for him in November of 2022, having not emceed for like 2 years. And I was really like, fuck, am I still going to remember how to do it? And I did. And I loved that venue. I just fell in love with that venue. The people there is like family run venue. And then I was emceeing there every 2 weeks. And then I started running the heckle night there. Okay. So Marvin would get me to do the heckle night, to host it. And I had my own little format with it. So I give the audience like cards to hold up saying things like, get your tits out, or your mum, or careful now, that's a bit racist, or can you show me the best way to get to Reading, or even things like, you've got the potential to be quite funny. It's really good fun. And I give out prizes for the best hecklers. So I developed that from there. So I was doing it regularly, but I still didn't like, 2022, I was back on it for a lot of the year. But then 2023, I kind of only did Arthur's Cafe for the first 6 months. For some reason, I didn't have the urge to go booking gigs and putting myself out there. And then something changed. I think it was realizing that I was going to be 39 and then 40. Fuck. So then 2023, I kind of was properly back on it. Like, come on, let's book it. But I still wasn't always doing it loads and loads. Like if I saw there was a week without a gig, I'd go, okay. Or even 2 weeks, I'd be like, that's fine. I can let that happen. And I carried on like that until this fucking competition, Mark, in June. So I did that first gig for it. The heat was in April, and I died on my arse. I tell you, it was awful. I literally died on my arse. I had friends in the audience. It was like these words had never been jokes.
Yeah.
Even though I know they had been. I died on my arse. Didn't expect anything to come for it. It was just like, oh, whatever. I was keeping my foot in the water, whatever. Then I got a wild card through the semi-final and stormed it. And then I got into the final and I won it. And I was like, fuck. And that has been a real rocket up my arse, because now that I won that, I've gone, right, book the gigs. And now I'm treating it like a job, and I'm really trying to keep I'm trying to keep the momentum going. Well, the momentum, it's my own momentum. You don't get approached by loads of clubs. You think you're going to. You don't. You have to do it all yourself. I'm just like, okay, and now that I've got this, I need to use it. So this is so now I'm approaching like other clubs, and I'm starting to get more paid gigs. I'm starting to do I'm doing more like open spots on pro bills, starting to get 20s, that sort of thing. So I'm just starting to make that move now towards the pro circuit. It's slow though. It's slow. And there's not loads of gigs on the pro circuit. And also I'm not as comfortable on the pro circuit as I am on the open mic circuit. So it's about pushing myself to get comfortable with that. So I suppose, so it's all kind of now. It's like, okay, now I'm in it. Now I'm throwing myself into it. That's it. This is it. I was putting it off for ages, and now I'm like, no, come on, got to do it.
So you might have already answered this question. Is the best and worst moments on stage?
That heat was awful. Like I only have one rule when I go for a gig, and that's to enjoy myself on stage. And if I'm standing on the stage and not enjoying myself, I'm like, no, this is a problem. Shit, this is not what it's about. And that gig, I didn't enjoy myself on stage. I was like, fuck, let's get through it. But I don't know if it's my worst moment on stage, Mark. There's been several worse.
Go on. Any you
there
want to recount?
There's, you know, those. Have you ever done a gig where the bar, where there's like not, it's in the main bar and everyone's talking? Have you done those?
I've done one, but it was kind of upstairs, but the bar area was open, and
Right.
what would happen was you would hear everything from downstairs, and it was a restaurant as well, so knives and forks and plates were clattering and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and you just like there's
And
no
it's just
concentration.
no concentration. I think that's the key, isn't it? You need focus, don't you, for
Yeah.
comedy to work? And if the environment's not focused, you just can't do it, can you?
No. And I
Yeah.
get distracted really easily by the silliest thing. I might, it's like, oh, there's a squirrel.
Yeah.
You're having a really deep and meaningful conversation with somebody, and then you see something completely stupid and obtuse, and it's like, oh yeah.
There it is.
What was you saying again?
Whoopsie. Yeah. Well, we've got to watch out for squirrels now on this podcast. They distract us. Yes, so gigs like that. I mean, there was one where it was in a pub. The locals didn't really want us there. One old man, and I think he shouted at me, "I've seen dead people funnier than you." And then he was quite old, so I think I said, "Oh yeah, you're going to join them soon." Which actually, I wish I'd thought of something funnier and kinder. But I did give the guy a hug as I left the stage, and he smiled at me, so it can't have been that bad. But it certainly wasn't funny. It certainly wasn't comedy, whatever the fuck that gig was. So that's definitely one of the worst. Best? One of the best?
Yeah.
Well, the final was great. Like, winning was great. That was amazing. In terms of my actual performance, I didn't actually do my best performance. I fucked up a bit. So I was amazed to win. But yeah, when I found out I won, I ran up to the stage and I jumped on David Hardcastle. So that was fun. But the best gig, I did a gig. Do you know Chris Markovich, All Sorts Comedy? I headlined there.
I've heard of All Sorts.
It's great, and Chris is wonderful. And I headlined there in May, and it was my first ever paid 20, and it was my last gig of my 30s, and it was amazing. And I'd been watching these guys. They're quite a big crowd, and quite kind of like, I don't know, like proper people, you know, like real down to earth punters. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to go. And so we just gelled, and I really had fun with them. And it was 20 minutes, and I thought, am I going to do 20 minutes? And I actually went to 25. I was just playing around with them. I got them to cover me in shaving foam. It was great.
There is one thing. When you said your final appearance wasn't your best because you in your words, fucked up a bit.
Yeah.
Do people know you've messed up, or is it just you that knows?
Just
because
me.
Yeah, because I saw you sent me your clip of the semi-final you did.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it, but it was almost like organised chaos.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I like that. That's a poster quote right there.
It's so good the way. I mean, I'd love to get into this, and I don't know if you want to reveal how much of it is actually planned and how much of it is ad-libbed.
Yeah.
Because there is certain points where you'll say something and then you go for a high five and stuff like this. And it's like, was that part of the thing, or was that just I'd done it once and then you then refer to it again later on, or what?
Yeah.
Because you never seem to take a breath.
Really? Okay. Right. And that's something I'm probably going to have to learn to do for longer sets, I think. I've had someone say to me recently, because I'm high energy, they're like, high energy, that's going to be hard to keep that energy up. I'm like, yeah, you would think. So there are a lot of ad-libs, and annoyingly, my ad-libs are often the funnier bits of my set.
But you know what that proves?
What?
I think that proves you are funny as a person rather than writing.
Yes.
I've had discussions with people about this before, is that the funny is in you. You are the funny. It almost doesn't matter what you say, because the way you express it is the funny part.
That's the funny part. Well, okay, well that is good. However, I see the pros, and I see them and their material and the way that they've crafted those jokes, and I'm still noticing, like, whilst I'm very happy with where I'm at, I'm going, okay, I need to somehow do that. Like, so I'm still seeing a difference. I'm really critical of myself. I think we all are, aren't we? We're our worst critic.
Yes.
And I love that I have the ad-lib stuff, but the problem is that it's all very dependent on the energy in the room and the vibe you get, and me. And actually, sometimes the energy isn't there, and sometimes the crowd work. If the MC hasn't really done much crowd work, fucked, because I can't really signal anyone, and I have to kind of make this up myself, and I've got nothing to call back to. So I had a time of this year where I was really kind of dependent on doing the callbacks, and I would go to a 10 and prepare an 8-minute set, knowing that I'd do 2 minutes of fuck about. But then one time I did no fuck about, because there was nothing to fuck about with. because I was opening, and I was like, oh shit, and there hadn't been a lot of crowd work, and I was like, and that is the only problem. It's very mood dependent, so I just want to make it more reliable. So, to answer your question, though, some of the high five bits, they're scripted. They're actually scripted. So there are some things that look throwaway that aren't throwaway. So that's my trick.
Because it puts you in the room.
Yes, thank you. And I'm glad that came across on video, because I had a concern that whilst I'm good live, I've been worried that it maybe doesn't come across on video. And I really play the room. I really kind of play that room that I'm in and who's there. Yeah. But often, because I'm referencing things that have gone on in the night or things that are in the room, a promoter watching that on video is not going to find it funny. So I worry that it's not going to translate.
But I think you also do a really good job as well of engaging the whole audience, because I noticed there were bits you're not the sort of person that's just in the middle and kind of projecting out to everybody. You're moving around and like you're going to the left, to the right, and you're doing things with people that are in those particular areas of around the stage, and then they're invested and they want to be part of it, and they're not nervous or apprehensive about being spoken to, because they know they're not the only one that not being picked on or being the butt of the joke, but there's other people that are part of it
in it too. Well, thank you. That's kind to say. It's a really fine line. And if you come to the Heckle night in Arthur's Cafe, that's a really small venue. So I literally speak to at the beginning before we start the show. I call out everybody's names, and I've actually taken to giving them badges. I draw I ask them if they want a penis or a flower or a noun, and I do them a little picture. So everyone's got badges. It's a new thing. It's I don't know how well it's worked, but I'm going to carry on doing it. And everyone says, "Are you going to pick on me?" I said, "I'm going to pick on all of you." And that really is like, because it's an intimate space, you can really, it's great fun. You can really speak to everyone, and I do remember everybody's names genuinely. Because I care about every single person who's come out to support the night. I want them to have a good night.
So with the MCing part, do you have a preference on an MC versus an act for yourself?
Oh, do you know, I'm sort of a better MC than I am an act, I think. But again, that is very dependent on mood. So sometimes it can be that, the audience aren't up for it, or the acts aren't landing, and that is really hard. So MCing can be more work, but you don't have to prepare as much. I think when I'm doing a set, I rehearse and I sit at home, like looking at the mirror and doing laundry and saying it out loud. Like I work harder for a set, I think. Whereas MCing is a lot more, you turn up and you play. So I think I'm a better MC than I am an act, but I want to try and get my act up to that level. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And actually I did a gig on Saturday where the audience weren't particularly wanting, that they were really wanting to watch comedy. And it went absolutely fine, but it did make me think I need to have some bits where I am more monological, and I am actually I'd like to have some nice personal autobiographical bits that are funny. Yeah, I hope I can make that work with my style, because actually, the audience don't just want to be like, hey, high five for an hour. Like, don't need to lie down. We all will.
Can you remember the first ever joke you ever told, either as an adult or a child?
Oh, okay, not as a comic.
No.
Not as a comic, but oh god, it's more just that I talk. I just would say things and people go, "That's funny." I think it was once my family were all into Eddie Izzard, and we'd sit around and watch Eddie Izzard videos, VHS. At Christmas. And then later on, my mum said something like, what was it that Mr. Kipling used to say? And she meant Rudyard Kipling, like, the Just So stories. And I just said, exceedingly good cakes.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I thought of.
Like, that's what you thought of, exactly. Or would she say, she said Mr. Kipling, not Rudyard Kipling. And then my sister said, you're like Eddie Izzard. That was funny. You're like Eddie Izzard. And we were watching Eddie Izzard. And she's like, oh yeah, you're like them. I'm like, good. I would like to be like them.
Yeah.
So maybe that. I mean, it's not very funny, is it? But I do.
That's the beautiful thing about this question, though, is it's never necessarily funny, but when you start going into comedy and stuff and you start looking back on life, there may be triggers where something happened or you told a joke and you got a reaction, but because now you've forgotten about it for 15 years, but then you get back into comedy and these little triggers in your brain come back and go, oh yeah, I remember doing that. So winning the Not So New Comedian of the Year, what was the motivation for going and entering the competition? Was it just what the hell? Or
Yeah, because it's a good gig. And I did it 2022, and that was my first gig back after motherhood. And that was brilliant. I actually got a pro gig off the back of that heat, which was incredible.
Okay.
And I got paid, and it was a big old club. And I was nervous. I don't get nervous that often, but I remember doing this gig, and I was like, oh, I actually got nervous because it was a proper old crowd. I remember feeling a bit imposter syndrome there. And yeah, so 2023, I didn't enter it because, like I said, I think I was being a bit lazy 2023. I just, for some reason, the beginning of 2023, I was just like doing my Arthur's Cafe MCing and I wasn't doing anything else. I don't know why. I was sort of, I don't know, my house was a lot tidier then, but I was just, I don't know, I was focusing on that. And then for 2024, I nearly didn't because I had 2 big 40ths this year. My husband's and I have mine and my twins, and we were putting on a big party. And I nearly thought, oh, do I really want to be doing this competition and planning a 40th? I decided to go for it. And then obviously I failed at the first heat. Like I didn't get through an audience vote and I really, really bombed. So I thought, well, that's that. And then I get the message to say I got the wild card. And it was the same week as my 40th. So I was like, I didn't work particularly hard for the semi-final because the week before that I hired a hot tub for the week before my 40th. So I wasn't gigging because I was in the hot tub.
Yeah.
You've got to hire a hot tub for the week. You've got to sit in it, haven't you? So I was quite relaxed when it came to the semi-final. And I think, I don't know, the stars just aligned because it's all changed at that semi-final. It was all based on that gig. If that hadn't gone well, I wouldn't be in the final.
Yeah.
So it's really weird. One little decision can change things. Because now, it's not that it's massively opened loads of doors yet, but it's definitely there. The best thing it's done for me is just giving me that self-belief to go, you know what? Damn it, I am good at this. I can do this.
Yeah.
I've got potential.
I think that's one good thing to take away from all of this is that it kind of confirms that not wasting time, but it confirms that you know you've now got something.
Yes. Yeah. And actually, I don't want to just not do comedy. I think when I had the kids, I remember coming back doing an online gig for Kyle when my daughter was 8 weeks old. And I just had her, maybe even 4 weeks. And it was a Zoom gig. It was in 2021. And I was just there breastfeeding whilst doing the gig, which was great. And one of the other acts said, so me and another act have both been on the first ever G&B lineup, and they had said, oh, Siobhan, you've moved on. And I remember being like, oh, no, I haven't. Well, but I didn't say that at the time. I think because, it's very hard on Zoom and lots of people are talking. But I remember thinking, oh, God, I think I've moved on. And I was very much like, no, I haven't moved on. I'm taking a break, but no, I'm still here. Nah.
Yeah.
And then obviously now that I've got this, it's like, no, I really am here. And now I'm kind of wanting to just make that jump up to the pro circuit and sort of try and be present there. Not that I don't want to do open mic anymore, because I love the open mic circuit. I think it's marvellous.
Yeah, I think the open mic is the breeding ground for everything, isn't it? Going back to the roots every so often is probably quite a nice thing to do.
Well, yeah, but also that's where the gigs are.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly, there's not. I haven't got loads of other gigs yet, and now that I'm properly trying to do it, I need to keep gigging. You need to try new material, and you need to hone your existing set. It's difficult. There's not enough hours, is there? Because you're juggling a lot.
Yeah.
And you've got to do the new material. You've got to hone your set, and you've got kids, and a job, and a house. There's a lot of balls to juggle, and I'm not keeping them all up in the air all the time. To be honest, I'm just not.
It's not an easy thing to do, and especially if I don't know what is your writing process in terms of how you generate new material. Are you one of these where you're always looking for new material and you've got things coming in and going, I'm working on this part, I can't use that, looks really good over there, but no, I shouldn't use it, I need to finish this bit first? Or does it just end up everywhere?
It's my writing process is procrastination. When I have to write, I'm like, oh God, I avoid it, and I don't know why I avoid it, because obviously we do this because we enjoy it. So why you put off doing something you enjoy is kind of mad, isn't it? But no, I generally have to set a time for it, and I sit down and force myself to do it. And then it can often flow, but also I tend to have set deadlines. For me, I tend to need a deadline, so I will have a gig that I will book, and I write specifically for that gig. But I want to get more in the habit of just general writing every day or writing every week at least. Adam Bloom's book, I listened to the podcast you have with Adam Bloom. Great. I'm doing his masterclass in a couple of weeks.
It's very good. It's very,
have you done the masterclass?
Yes, I have.
Oh, great. Okay.
It's you have to really know a lot about the book to get the most out of it as well. I think there's so much that everybody else asks as well, and it becomes really distracting. And if there's particular parts you want to know, I'd always say make a note of what's going on, because you're in the room for, I think when we did it, it must have been 6 hours ish, something like that.
Yeah.
So making sure you can get out what you want to get out of it. Sort of almost, you do have to do a bit of preparation for it. Don't think you can walk in there and go, I'm going to just see what happens and ask a question, because you will probably fall by the wayside, because you're in a room with other comedians that want their information as well.
Yeah.
And you've got this oracle ready to give you that information or the answers to your question.
Yeah.
You just got to get it out there, and you can get so distracted by somebody else starts asking a question, and the topic from that kind of just discussion happens.
Okay, so it's worth. I've
so
finished reading it. I've got the homework to finish. I've actually this afternoon I got to finish reading that book. But the problem is when I set myself time to sit and read it, my mind wanders, or then I think of material.
Yeah,
but it's like, no, I need to write this book now. Yeah, and I started reading it at the beginning of the year, and I working my way through it, and now it's like the course is coming up. So it'd be good to book the class to actually get me to finish reading it, and then doing the exercises as well. I've got to do the exercises.
Yeah,
it's hard. I put it off, but yeah, generally writing process, I just sit and I have the gig in my head, and I'll do like a flow chart. But Adam Bloom's book says he recommends typing it, so I'm now starting to type things. So the other day I started typing stuff. Nothing came to me. And then I was doing the dishwasher and I was saying a bit out loud. And then I just improvised a whole bit whilst I was doing the dishwasher. And actually I've gone, oh, that's got legs. I might try and run with that bit. So my writing process, I think, is in flux at the moment. I'm trying to change it.
Do you ever do any of the writing gyms that are around or anything like that? Writing groups?
No, I don't. I should. One thing I'm a bit self-conscious of is revealing ideas to people before they're performed on stage. So I did a one-to-one. But before I came back with that Not So New Medium of the Year competition, I did a one-to-one tutorial with Ben Clover, who I believe was your tutor, right? Yes, he did your podcast. I listened. Ben is brilliant. I love Ben. Yeah. I did a sort of, because he was offering like one-to-one, so I did a sort of class with him just to kind of go through my set and give me ideas, and that was great. But I feel really self-conscious saying ideas to someone without performing them, because they're just ideas. They're not funny at this point.
Yeah. And
it's very easy for someone to listen to them not being performed and going, no, and then it just kills it. I can't do it. Whereas if you do that on a stage, it's fine.
Yeah, I don't know. I find it weird sometimes in comedy workshops and writing gyms where you're trying to get something across, but because you're not performing it, it's hard to get it across.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, you're not standing up with them. We've actually, local to me, there's a group of people that started like a workshop every week. It runs over a weekend, and people kind of come in for a 3-hour session, and we've got like a rehearsal studio set up. So somebody will come in, or a big group of us, and they'll get up and they'll have maybe around a half an hour's worth of time to play with. They can get up and just do whatever they want. Perform it, got microphones, talk it through, sit on a chair, just say, I've got this idea for a joke. Then everybody contributes. But we always have one golden rule, is that if you are contributing towards somebody else's thing, you can't do that in the future. Yes. If you don't want them to have that idea, don't say it.
Don't say it.
But if it's like I say to somebody, I think you should do it this way, using this prop or doing this, and they go ahead and do that. That's theirs. That's not yours. That's theirs. And there's this kind of general understanding of this support network that's going on, and it's really quite good.
That would be good. Yeah, that would be like a little writing network. Otherwise, it's it's a bit scary, isn't it? It's you.
Yeah.
It's just you and your ideas, but that's also amazing as well, isn't it? Like, you don't need a band. You don't need guitar. You don't need drums.
No,
you just turn up.
It's actually, we actually do it in like a rehearsal room where you could have access to us if you wanted them, but we've got the mics, a few cameras set up so people can then record themselves, and then rather than sitting there going, oh, I'll take a note of what you said, it's all on video for them to then take back and go, I can just watch that, and that's, they don't lose their flow and stuff like that. So more things like that need to be created around the open mic circuit, on top of like the writing gyms and stuff, because I've never done a writing gym, but I've spoken to a few people that have, and they've got 5 minutes in their head. They'll go there and they'll just read through what they've written, then other people will contribute.
Brilliant.
But you're not practicing it. You're not giving the emphasis. It's so different. I find
it is to performing it.
Yeah,
it's just raw ideas that may well not be funny, but they may well be funny. There's something kind of exposing about it, isn't there?
Yeah, but it's also this is actually something, it's an interesting question for yourself, is if you was to pick the two parts, writing and performance, what do you think is the most important part of you as a comedian?
Oh, for me, I'm definitely more of a performer than a writer, 100%. And that's always been my issue. And I see there are often times I'll do a gig and I can see the comedy purists back, like, not impressed. I know that because I'm all energy and bluster and high five, cock. It's like just a glorified knob gag with energy, really. And I can see that a lot of them. And what has been nice recently, winning the award and doing some gigs with some people who I know maybe might look back at the day and be like, she's not funny. Actually being like, finding me funny. I'm like, oh, yay, great, okay. Maybe I was just paranoid and that I thought they didn't find me funny, but I can just often see the comedy purists not necessarily approving of what I do, and I agree with them. Like, I know that I know there's some better writing in me somewhere. Haven't necessarily found it yet. It's a bit like Harry Potter, isn't it? You don't choose the wand chooses you. Now, when I came back after having the kids, I wanted to sort of not do some of my old classic knob gag, but then I got a 10. I was like, well, I've got to do those. And then I realised, no, they are part of my set. I can't, and they're some of my strongest gags. I have to do them.
Yeah.
But it's difficult because you end up being trapped, don't you? Because that's the material you developed. You've got to do it because it works.
Yeah.
And then it's hard to kind of be brave and break into totally new stuff.
Yeah. I think you've kind of got to write in your own voice as well, haven't you?
Yes, absolutely. And it's still honing what that is.
Yeah.
I have it as an MC, and then if I stop and think about it as an act, I kind of get paranoid trying to work out where that is. But it's a tough one. I think there's Adam Bloom's book will help. Definitely trying to just keep working at it, basically, because you've got to do what works, haven't you? And you've got to do what suits you. Like I was trying a one-liner recently, and it wasn't working. And then I ran it by my husband, and he was like, well, you're not a one-liner comedian. I was like, yeah, fair enough. And it was a little bit like I was saying it, and it's like, it's like, yeah, actually, no, that isn't. Let's not go with that.
Trying to get those things right. I think it's the same for a lot of people, is they always have the admiration for the act that they're not.
Yes, and I do. I see a lot of acts doing stuff like sitting down and having a conversation. I'm like, oh, I want to have elements of that.
Yeah, I've just started trying that.
Yeah, have you? Okay.
Yeah, that's but the main reason I've done it is when I'm on stage and I'm talking, if I keep nerves and the heart rate down, I'm good. But when those things start to go out of control, my brain just can't process it correctly.
Process it all. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did it last week. I went on stage and I looked at my my watch before I went on. It's like 135 beats a minute, and I'm like, "Wow,
you're dead.
I should be running."
Yeah.
But then I've tried it where I'll sit down, and sitting down lowers your heart rate, and it also kind of calms me down.
Yeah.
And then I feel like I'm having a conversation rather than talking to people.
Yeah, absolutely.
That
which
makes
is
sense.
What people want, isn't it?
I mean, ultimately, we need to be entertaining.
Yes, that's it. And actually sometimes they want that performance and sometimes they want that connection.
So you've been on this circuit for quite a while then, since you started in 2012.
Yeah.
How have you seen things change, or have they not changed?
I definitely think there was a change within the Me Too movement. That changed things a bit. So don't get me wrong, I've never found it too bad, the misogyny. But when I first started in 2012, there was a campaign called Rape is No Joke, and it was to try and get people to stop saying rape joke.
Right.
And I remember there being some real active people who were actively against that. And there would be jokes in the comedy collective about rape jokes and stuff. And a load of men basically wanted to be like, oh, it's all right to say it. But yeah, freedom of speech, of course. Yeah, totally get that. But now it appears to be that actually what's quite nice, I think since 2017, is that if someone's kind of basically being a bit of a dick about women, majority of people are now like, oh, no, you're being a bit of a dick. And it's actually generally, I think the balance is further on there. So I think it's possibly the circuit's become more feminine, certainly in the wider circuit. I think there are some little incel corners, which I see now, which are a bit of a problem. But I don't think they're really going to go anywhere. They're just little groups that stay in the dungeon and don't really gig anywhere on like one gig. So I think we can keep them underground and thrive. But I think it's possibly become safer for women over the years. Not that I've actually found it. I've been okay most of the time. But yeah, I think hopefully it's become better. I think, and there's generally less tolerance of like, okay, if you're going to say a rape joke, you've got to make sure that it's coming from the right place and that it's funny. And you're not just doing it for the sake of it.
Yeah.
And the people that do that, I don't think they get too far, to be honest. I'm
No.
worried about getting a backlash. Like those of like edgelords will come for me. Little incel sticks that'll come and find me and troll me. Like, do your worst, motherfuckers. And like now I can probably say I'm a feminist and not get like lynched, whereas before it was like a dirty word.
Yeah.
And like I think most people do identify as feminists now.
I did love the feminist joke in your semi-final routine.
Oh, thank you. Oh, you did? Oh, thank you. I was wondering how... I've always thought about cutting that because it hasn't been working, but it started working again and I like the sentiment, so I'll keep it.
I think it's great, but then I mean, I guess there's a comedian's, I hate to say a comedian, but a comics version of what's funny and the audience version and the crowds you're playing to and all of that plays into whether something works or not, which does kind of lead to a question of how many times do you give a joke before you go, nah, it's not really working? Hard.
Probably not enough, Mark, to be honest. And I'm guilty of just seeing something not working and dropping it. And actually now I think I'm going to start picking up some bits that weren't working and putting them back in and seeing if I can run with it again. Yeah. I'm still trying to craft my 10, my club 10. I want to kind of take out and do on open spots and stuff. It's good, but there's just some bits. And it's annoying because one day you'll have this bit will be really working. And then the next week that bit will work and that bit won't, and then that bit won't, and then that will work. And it's really annoying, isn't it? Because you might take one bit out, but that bit would do amazingly somewhere else. So, I'd say generally a couple of months I would run with it. But what I want to do is get to the point where I've got so much material in my archives that I can get into a room and I can judge what's going to work in that room. Yeah. I see the headliners doing that. Like sometimes they've got stuff in their hand and they'll be like, oh, we'll do this, we do that. And like, what should we do now? And they'll bring out something they know will work in that room. Whereas I'm like, no, I've practiced this set. I'm doing this set with a bit of crowd work and a bit of ad-libs. I'll obviously do that, but I'm going to do this set. And it'd be lovely just to be like, no, you know what? Let's try this instead. They're liking the dirty stuff. Let's go with that. Or they're not liking dirty stuff. Let's go with this. And yeah, I think that would be the best thing to do because it really could be dependent on the room, couldn't it? Yeah,
the whole that vibe in the room. You look across a room and kind of go. You see like a certain demographic of people and go, I'm not sure this is going to fly tonight.
Oh God, absolutely. Yeah. Polite people.
But then, but then if it does fly, I think it's almost it's a better feeling because you feel like you've won the room over, whereas at the start you thought no chance.
This isn't going to work, and then it works. Yeah, that's a lovely feeling. Yeah, when you think it's not going to land, and it does, it's great. And then sometimes you think it's not going to land, and it doesn't, and it's horrible. You're just like, oh God, this was not a good use of my time.
Yeah.
But I think with the thing about the circuit, I think honestly things like this podcast are absolutely the right direction in order of creating a more supportive, nurturing, and reflective culture, because as interpreters we're always encouraged to be self-reflective, and there's a sign for that. It's like you're looking down the top. Brilliant sign. Some signs put things across much better than words, and I kind of want to do that as a comic as well, and I've started doing voice notes to comics to just have a rant after a gig and encourage them to do the same. And it's a really good thing to do because it's such an in the moment thing that it drives you mad if you don't talk about it afterwards, or if you don't just go, this is how I feel. So I think it would be nice to have that culture, more a sort of broad culture of just talking to each other and reflecting on what we're doing and talking about what we could do better, what went well, that sort of thing. And I think this podcast is brilliant for that.
Thank you. There's been some people on here, predominantly female, that have made points about the circuit and stuff like that. And it would be nice to think that there are people that are listening to this going, maybe I need to change something. You know, there was a recent guest made a point of that if she's, as a female, when coming into a room, if there's a group of blokes talking, they may reference to say hello, but then it's like turn their back and carry on talking again and ignoring her.
Cliquiness, I suppose. Yeah.
And just understanding that, you know, everybody in this room that's a performer is there to entertain and be funny and have fun, but also wants to be part of something. So include everybody in that.
inclusive practice. Yes, because it can be a bit insular, can't it? And
Oh
actually,
yeah,
particularly on the pro circuit, I noticed like you do your bit, you go, and that's fine. That's obviously, I did that last week with a gig. I felt like a rock star. I did my bit, and I went. I was like, wow,
yeah,
it's an alien feeling. But it's funny then, because then the only connection that's there is going to be between the performer and the audience. It
yeah.
actually is worth having a little connection with the other act sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of the time I will drop messages to people after a gig or whatever and just say really enjoyed it.
That's
Hope to see you
nice.
again soon. And it's just
Yeah,
being nice and friendly.
it's
And when
making
you
that
get that,
connection.
yeah, and when you get that back as well, it's like that's it's a warm fuzzy feeling. It's
Yeah.
good.
And the circuit do look after each other, I think. Like whenever there's, I remember there was a comic who died, and he'd been on the circuit a bit, and they didn't have money for a funeral, and someone put a crowdfunder up. And within seconds, his funeral was paid for, and he had a big fund. Like it's generally, I think it is quite a supportive culture. It can be. It doesn't always seem that way, but I think it is.
Yeah, it's a weird world when you step into it for the first time alone.
Yeah.
And you kind of you have to, because I don't know, I guess I don't speak for everybody, but a lot of comics are kind of introverted as well, especially when they join the open mic scene, because it's quite daunting, and all you need is that little friendly face to say, it's your first ever gig, wow, let's come and sit down
and actually be friendly. You're right, because a lot of them can be like, there's a lot of self-conscious boys with notebooks who, when you talk to them, they don't look at you, and you're like, oh, okay, so they need a lot of encouragement, don't they?
Yeah.
And I sometimes go in and be all mumsy. I don't know how much they like that, to be honest. It's like, no, fuck off, let me get back to my notebook. But there's a place for them all. There's a place for us all.
Yeah, there is. With your jokes, do you have a particular favourite? And not it's always comes with a caveat. It doesn't have to be your best.
Yeah.
You can have. Always believe you can have a favourite joke that's not your best joke.
Yes. Do you know my opening? I don't want to give it. Well, you've seen it, of course, but I don't necessarily want to give it away on the podcast. But it's a bit like boom. It's a bit exposing, shall we say? And I've been told to stop doing it several times by my mum, my sisters. They're not keen on me doing it. Middle-aged men have come up to me and been like, "Stop getting your tits out." That doesn't give anything away. I don't know. La 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 la. But I that just makes me want to keep doing it.
Yeah.
I know it's probably a bit dumb, and I know I've got a brain. I could think of something way more clever, but I think I enjoy the shock value. And the fact that, it's kind of like, hello, I'm here. I might do something a bit different. Right. Okay. Get ready. Strap in. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And there's just something I don't know. I don't know if it's my favourite, but I'm definitely fond of it. And there's something for years I thought about not doing it, and people will be like, you really will stop doing that. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I haven't stopped doing it. I'm still doing it 12 years on. Yeah, I think I don't know if it's my favourite, but I like doing it, and I like the sort of impact it has. Other things I do really like, I've got a bit at the moment where I jump up and down and like expose my baby belly. That's really fun. Like I say, it's not particularly funny, but it is fun. And it's a moment I have where I know that if there's an empty chair in the front row, I can jump on that. And that's good. Because I suppose I think of the wider picture, everyone's seeing a bill of comedians. At the moment, I'm doing like mixed bill shows. I'm not doing a solo show. I think about the variety that people want in the show. Yeah. And actually, I think, well, no, there's a place for an act that's going to be a bit mental and jump on a chair and expose their belly. And actually, it's good for the audience to have that, like, and that interactive element as well, because they might have already come off the back of seeing a really good long bit of autobiographical stand-up that they really had to listen to. Their brain might need a little bit of a break.
Yeah, I think so I'm all for alternative stuff on straight bills, shall we put it? There has to be an element of difference, because otherwise the night almost becomes forgettable. Yeah, because it might be different jokes, it might be different people, but it's still a same familiar face looking at you for 5 minutes or whatever. And then to have something that's crazy and a whirlwind, you're like, but that you, by being that, you will be the person that will be remembered when they go home. Yeah, whether it was their taste or not. They may have seen somebody that they were absolutely brilliant. Yeah. But the person they'll be talking about is the different thing they saw.
Yeah. But it's hard when there's a lot, when you're on an alternative night and there's lots of different acts. I must say I struggle with that because I look positively pedestrian. And I I was talking to Sam Rhodes the other night. Do you do Sam Rhodes gigs? He's brilliant. Love his nights. He's a gentleman. And he was talking about an alternative night. And I was like, oh, but I don't feel like my set's very alternative. It's a bit kind of knobby and pedestrian. And he went, that's not knobby and pedestrian. And he pointed out, no, that's quite mad. That is alternative. I'm like, oh, okay. I hadn't considered that. Because I think it sort of works better on a bill, on a sort of mainstream comedy bill. I think it's quite good because it provides that variation. But on an alternative bill, I don't know. I can dress as a bear again for that.
Why? That's actually why dressed as a bear. I don't think you've mentioned why.
Because I had a bear outfit,
and that was the only reason.
Yeah, literally. And I love costumes. So when I MC. Often, like last time I did Heckle Night, I was a Rubik's Cube because I had the Rubik's Cube outfit out already because I'd worn it the weekend. So I was like, oh, before it goes in the wash, I might as well get another wear out of this. So I've always been a bit of an eccentric, you see, and I like my costumes.
Okay.
For a couple of years, I remember badgering my then boyfriend, now husband, to get me a bear outfit. And then 2010 Christmas, I got a bear outfit, and I would just put it on at parties. They'd be like, hey, Siobhan's a bear again, yay! So then I was like, oh, I should do this. I should do comedy dressed as a bear. And that hasn't answered your question at all, has it? There was no logic to it. I just thought, oh, that would be fun. Let's dress as a bear. But then I've been a bear a few times. I've been an inflatable penis.
Right.
That was one of my best ever gigs. I used to dress up as Alex Martini's penis for his birthday and do I got the whole room in G&B actually to sing Ciao Bella dressed as a giant inflatable penis. Got a standing ovation for that. That was brilliant. I like costumes. They're not part of my regular set. Like my regular set, people would sometimes expect to see me in costume, and I'm like, no, that's not what I do anymore. However, as an MC, I'm very happy to put a costume on. But, the bear thing, I just thought that'd be silly. That'd be a good thing to start with. But I didn't have that much mileage. It was just silly. It wasn't like, I couldn't go into sort of anything personal or anything when dressed as a bear. And actually, looking back, the jokes were really quite dumb, actually. I talked about how I had a human face and human hands, and I'm like, oh, it's difficult. I'm a bear, and I've got this human face and this human hands. And, let me just speak to my colleague, Paul, who was the little bear I would hold. I'd say, oh, Paul's an anarchist. He's whispering in my ear. Oh, he's saying, fuck the system. Oh, God. I've forgotten all of this, Mark. That is literally what I did on my first gig. I talked about my human face and hands and Paul the anarchist bear. That was a bit mad, actually. Maybe I should bring that back.
Yeah, it sounds entertaining.
Yeah, it was very different to what I do now.
But okay, if we're going back to like the open mic circuit, what would you just one single tip you'd give somebody that's just started? What's the one thing you would give advice on?
Enjoy yourself on stage. That's it. Just make sure you enjoy yourself on stage. And also, don't worry too much like having notes and stuff. It doesn't matter. If you get it wrong, you can improvise around that and it's better. Mm-hmm. Yeah, personally, I never bring notes on a stage, even if I'm doing new material, because it's only in my head. And actually, if I forget it, then I learn for next time. Oh, I've forgotten that. No one's going to know. No one's sitting there with a script. They'll be like, no, line. So I say just have fun, learn your script, be prepared to improvise. Oh, and actually, one thing I heard, a bit of advice I heard that I've really stuck with. People said people love it when there's unscripted things. Yeah. So you can't really go wrong. If there's a heckle, however you respond to it is going to be great because the audience really appreciates spontaneity. And I think they really appreciate you being in the room. So my advice would be always try and be in the room. Try and think of something that is going to make you relevant to your surroundings, whether that's saying an audience member's name because you've been listening to the MC and heard them say it, whether it's doing a callback to another comic, just something that brings you into that space because it shows the promoter and it shows everyone in the room that, hey, I'm doing this for you. I'm not just like running my set because of that gig, that big gig that I've got. Obviously, you do have to do that sometimes. You have to be like, right, I've got this big gig, so I'm going to do these gigs to prepare for it. But I still think within those gigs, you have to do something to make it relevant to the room. You have to be present, if that makes sense. Yes,
completely agree.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a lot of things.
No, that's the other thing is that no matter how many times I say one single tip,
people do loads.
There's always three.
Yeah. Like, be present, have fun, be in the room, learn your
stuff. Our comedic brains are setting the rules of three as well. So
there we go.
Can't do one. Can't.
Yeah.
And it's just the way we're built these days, I think. So what's your future ambitions then in comedy? Where do you want to be?
I mean, I don't often say it out loud, but I'd quite like to be on telly.
Mm.
It'd be great to just get a little, I don't know, like just do the stuff that I'm doing as an MC. It's so fun sometimes. I think if that could be like, if that magic, and there is some real magic that happens in these shows, if that could be sort of transported to telly, that'd be fun. I know it's very cliche to say you want to be on telly, and you're not meant to say, everyone's meant to go, oh, of course, it's not about the fame, and it's not about the money, but yeah, a little bit of fame and money, that'd be great fun. I think that'd be a nice way to grow old. Because you get more free things, and I think that would keep me young. So yeah, eventual goal would be that, but I'm not very good at looking long term. I tend to be very short termist. I focus on the next gig or the next project or the next sort of competition. So I think I just need to get better at it. I want to get to a point where at the moment I want to perfect my 10, and I want to sort of be on pro bills doing 10s and feeling like, yes, I've got a fucking strong 10. Then I want to build up to the 20 and feel like I can open and close. And be like a proper good 20 spot on these bills as well, and not feel like at the moment on a pro bill I feel like I hold my own, but I want to not just hold my own but excel and be like, yes, I'm fucking there, that's brilliant, I've done a great job. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so I think my ambition is to get there, I suppose, to just get the 10 down, get the 20 down, eventually do an hour one day. Not in the next, not Edinburgh. Edinburgh isn't, people keep asking me about Edinburgh, and I'm sorry, if my husband said to me, I'm going away for 4 weeks, you've got to look after the kids, I'd be like, fuck off, you're not. Like, I'm not doing this. Look after them for 4 weeks. Are you shitting me? So I just don't see how I could do that to him. And like, you know, they're small, and I just, he'd be competent and he'd be great, my husband. He's a very good dad, but like, it's just not fair, and it's not fair on them. I just, no disrespect to the comics that do it. I think it's amazing, and I know I'm going to have to do it at some point. But just while they're small, I just really don't think that's something I can do, unfortunately.
Fair enough.
So that isn't an ambition as yet. Sorry.
So so say things do start going really well, and you do get that TV spot, and it's live at the Apollo. And you're prepared for it. You've got everything lined up, and then the producer says, "What music do you want to walk out to?"
Okay, I've thought.
What do you pick?
What would I pick? Well, okay, I've got this. This is going to be so. This, wouldn't that be good? I had an image of us like dancing to this. Although this intro's a bit long, isn't it? And what I want to do is I want to get into that Beyonce bit. That bit. Oh! You imagine we can all dance to that. I could like scamper around the stage. I had images of us like getting up and dancing to this, Mark. Something like that. I think that would be. Yeah, look, learn the Beyonce words. There we go. I think that.
I've never had that happen before.
I mean, in my head, like, because I was prepared for this, I thought this is going to be great. I'm going to like, we're going to be up there, we're going to be dancing, and we'll be twerking, and it'll be like the best thing that the podcast industry has ever seen. I think I just sort of held my phone awkwardly and was moving my bum a bit, so it's probably not a little clumsier than I imagined. Because whilst I'd like to think I've got, sorry.
Most people just give the title.
No, you get the full intro there. Full intro, bit of dancing. I'd like to think I've got the swagger of Beyonce. I don't think I do, but give it a good go anyway.
It's quite apt though for you.
Yeah. yeah.
It fits.
I think it is.
It fits. It just fits.
It was playing the other day. So I did South Kensington Comedy Club, and it was a very quiet night. And I turned up, and Beyonce, this song was playing. And do you know Curra Ball? He's a very good comic. He was sat in the room. And it was only him in the room and one audience member. And this was playing, so I ran up to him. I was like twerking as I was walking, and I just went right up to him and started singing it at him. I was like, "Hi," and that's what made me think, yeah, this would be a good, because it was a very, very quiet night. We only had 5 audience members in,
right?
But Beyonce was playing, so therefore I had the energy.
Yeah.
Like if you walk on stage to that, you're bound to have a good set, right?
You should do, yeah.
You should do. Like it's Beyonce. Yeah. You're just going to channel that bit of swagger, that bit of movement.
And you brought the audience onto something. You've come on with the audience hearing something familiar as well.
Yes, that's important, isn't it?
Which puts their mind at ease in some kind of weird way, I think.
Yes, possibly. Although the funny thing with walk-on music is actually sometimes it can build you up too much, and then suddenly it's a bit like too much of a leap then to go back into listening and stand up.
Yeah. Interesting.
But I had a show once where I had a chorus of improvisers that I wanted them to do like a sort of a harmony kind of quartet thing for every act. But actually, it ended up being that the music was too long, and then it slowed things down a bit. So actually having too much music in between acts, it can actually be a bit. But I suppose Apollo's different. You've got a budget, you've got time.
Yeah. They can cut the bits out they don't want.
Exactly.
One thing I'd like to do as well, if you're up for it, is as you've listened to a few of these, is the Comedian's Challenge.
Yeah, lovely.
So for anybody that's new to this, I like to say all the comedians a challenge from this book called The Little Book of Shit Jokes by Sid Finch, where I challenge every comedian to go on stage, tell the joke that they pick from this book, except they don't pick it from the words, they pick it by page number. So what they get, I've got no idea, and they have no idea until I read it out. They can tell it standalone or incorporate into a set or do it however they want, or just ignore this and not do it at all. So it's entirely up to them. I'm not holding a gun at their head.
He is.
But
you can see.
but if you fancy giving the challenge a go, if you can give me a number between 5 and 95.
Okay. 17.
There's 2 jokes on this page. Would you like joke number 1 or joke number 2?
Joke number 2.
Okay.
No.
Why are actors told to break a leg?
I don't know.
Because every play has to have a cast.
Oh, that's good. Why are actors told, I'm going to write this down, to break a leg because every play has to have a cast? That's quite good. I could see that working as part of an MC set, actually. Is that cheating?
No, it's not cheating. I've seen people stop their set and say, I need to tell this joke. Tell the joke. And then say, the reason you didn't laugh was because it's not my own joke.
From the book of, it's not my joke, it's Sid Finch's. No, I might even claim that as my own, because that's the sort of thing that if you were doing that as an MC and you've got an actor in the audience, you'd be like, oh, you're an actor. Why does that? You could do because I need to have a cast.
There you go.
Bada bing. Everyone would be like, wow, isn't she quick? She thought of that off the cuff. What a genius. Thank you, Sid Finch. I have absolutely no pride, so I'm happy to rip that off and use that as my own as an MC.
When you do it, film it, post it on Instagram and tag us or add us as a collaborator, and we'll share it out as well and have a bit of a laugh and a bit of fun.
Is it? Is there a deadline?
No, at some point. There's still a few people from the early ones that haven't done theirs yet. So
okay, nice.
They've been noted.
Yes, yeah. You're like, okay, all right.
Next time I see them, I'll tell them the joke they're supposed to say and see if they remember.
Yes, yeah, they may have forgotten totally. Okay, I really like that one. Yeah, I haven't even finished writing it down. I think I know it. I think it's in my head now. Fuck it, it's there. It's ingrained.
So, where can people find you then? Online,
Morden.
not in.
Oh,
person.
Online. Sorry, not generally. I'm often in Morden. It's the end of the Northern Line. I'm in playgrounds there and cafes. You can find me there generally IRL. Arthur's Cafe, Wimbledon Park, is I host a regular night there. It's amazing. Online, you can find me on Instagram at Uncle Siobhan.
Okay.
I'm shit at Instagram, but since the competition and since realising, I'm going to take myself more seriously as a comedian, I've started to get more onto Instagram. So do that. Yeah. I'm also on Facebook, but that's more for sort of being a human. So yeah, I don't have a page. I haven't set up a page yet. I've got headshots now, but I haven't actually set up a comedian's page. So find me on Instagram or type my name into Google and see what comes up. It's nothing bad. It's nothing bad. Nothing incriminating.
No.
Yeah, I am on Twitter. I was on Twitter. I haven't used it for ages. I don't know if anyone uses Twitter anymore.
No, I think that's
it's done.
Fast becoming a dead resource.
Lovely. Okay, great. I mean, I have got an old MySpace, but I haven't used that for years. I don't even know if that page still works.
Can you remember the music you put on your MySpace?
Oh, yes.
See, now there's going to be younger people listening to this going, what are they talking about?
Yeah. I think it was Itchy Coo Park. It's all too beautiful. You know that one? It's all too beautiful. It was a mental one of those old 60s hallucinogenic tunes.
Okay. You can find us on Instagram at Open Mic Comedy Pod. We've got a website, openmiccomedypod.com. Whichever platform you're listening to this on, please give it a like, follow, subscribe, rating, whatever the buttons do these days. it helps get us up the charts and gets these lovely people a bigger audience to be heard by. So lastly, thank you very much for your time today, Siobhan.
No problem. Thank you for having me. And thank you for listening. This has been great. It's like therapy.
And until next time, everyone, I will speak to you all very, very soon.